All right, hello again from Las Vegas, where we obviously had some controversy, and we're going to hear from the 49ers players in a couple hours about this because they all have to talk. It is Super Bowl media opening night, and it turns into this big extravaganza. It's going to be over at Allegiant Stadium. So I'm going to be headed out there in a little bit, but just to get you updated on the facts of what has happened so far today, we're going to call it Fieldgate because the 49ers reportedly are not happy with how soft the playing or the practice surface is at UNLV. According to the Clegg test, which is what they do to test the firmness of the field, this field is scoring in the 50s, whereas a firmer field is going to be at least the 70s, according to this test. So this is a very, very soft field. And the 49ers, they remember the ghosts of MetLife Stadium. That's where the Giants and the Jets play. Remember week 2 of the 2020 season where both Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas tore their ACLs. Jimmy Garoppolo suffered the high ankle sprain. That was a game where the 49ers did not like how soft the turf was. And this is a big deal because you see the injury rates on turf, and especially on softer turf, they're much higher than they are on natural grass. And the 49ers are used to playing on the nicest natural grass that there is. They have perfected the situation in Santa Clara. So based on that, Matt Barrows, by the way, wrote this article, so you can go ahead and check it out on The Athletic. Based on some of this reporting, the 49ers were actually so upset that they thought they might fly back to Santa Clara after the media night tonight. That's no longer on the table. I think that San Francisco, the thing that they have to do right now, because this is the Super Bowl, stuff is locked in. I doubt that the Chiefs will want to change their practice schedule. The Chiefs are over at the Raiders facility, and the 49ers, because they're the designated visiting team, they got second pick. They're at UNLV, and the NFL put a turf field on top of the existing UNLV field last week. I doubt that the 49ers are going to be able to get out of whatever setup that there is here. It's just how it works. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles were the designated home team against the Chiefs. The Eagles got the practice at the Cardinals facility, and the Kansas City Chiefs played at or practiced at Arizona State. It wasn't raining last year, though, and I think that the field was in a much firmer place or a much better place, according to the liking of the Kansas City Chiefs, than this current field is at UNLV for the 49ers. But it seems to be that the 49ers are going to have a really tough time wiggling out of this and practicing elsewhere. I think the idea of bringing new sod in doesn't seem all too realistic with me. Don't call me an expert on this, but it seems like they would have to go for a pretty quick turnaround. So I think that the 49ers key right now is one of mentality, and this is one that we'll be talking. This is a key that we'll be talking about with the players at opening night in a couple hours. They need to use this purely for motivation's sake. And I think that the 49ers do have their heads on straight. This is a very good locker room. It's a well-coached team. It seems that they haven't had trouble getting motivated, haven't had trouble being in the right headspace for these games over the entire Kyle Shanahan tenure. So this is something that they have to channel as motivation as they move into Super Bowl Sunday. It is standard for the Super Bowl to have a designated home team and a designated road team. Every year it alternates back and forth. So when the 49ers were last in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, yes, they were the designated road team. The designated home team gets to pick the uniform first. They get to pick the hotel first. They get to pick the practice field first. And the NFL sets up 2 practice sites. So first pick gets the pick of what they like better. So the Chiefs picked the red uniforms. They did that in 2019 as well. The Chiefs picked their hotel, and the Chiefs picked the Raiders practice facility, which just by definition of how this works, there is a competitive disadvantage here for the 49ers, right? It's raining here in Vegas as we speak right now. It's probably going to be raining tomorrow as well. But the Raiders the Chiefs get to use the Raiders facility, which has an indoor component to it. The 49ers, those are 2 outdoor practice fields at UNLV. The Raiders facility is NFL grade for sure. The NFL contends that the field that they installed at UNLV for the 49ers this year is NFL grade. Roger Goodell says that experts unanimously approve the field. He just said that at his press conference here, but the report does indicate that it is indeed very soft in the 50s instead of the 70s on that measure. And Goodell did confirm that the playing surface is softer than what the 49ers are accustomed to. You'd think in just a vacuum that this is the Super Bowl. You'd want to even things out as much as possible. And of course, some things are going to be hard to logistically do. For example, having the Raiders or 49ers in the Raiders facility where the Chiefs are, probably not logistically possible just because of what times these teams want to practice. I don't think that anybody's willing to bend their schedules all too much because they want to limit distractions. They've already crafted the plan. The last thing you want to do is force any of these teams to divert from the plan. So I don't blame the Chiefs for not wanting to switch their practice time. So generally the NFL, is going to accept differences between the practice facilities with the knowledge that this changes every year between AFC and NFC. Last year, for example, you did have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Cardinals facility, and you did have the Kansas City Chiefs at ASU's facility, but it becomes a little bit bigger problem when the turf that's installed at the college facility at the one that the visitors are usually going to take, when that turf is not up to whatever that team that is practicing there is used to. And that's the case here. And that's why the 49ers are so concerned. Given the ghosts of MetLife, given the history that they've had injury-wise on this type of turf, the 49ers have every right to be concerned about this. They have every right for John Lynch to drive out, check it out, be concerned. But I'm just not really sure what their recourse is going to be, especially if the NFL is sticking to this. If the NFL says, well, yeah, it passes the regulation, even though it's a little bit softer, I just don't see what the path forward for the 49ers is other than not making it that big of a deal and using this purely for motivation. They obviously don't want a competitive or safety disadvantage. That is, I mean, no team would want a competitive disadvantage. No team wants a safety disadvantage. I see why the 49ers are scarred by the turf in the past. And I see why they're going to exhaust all options available to them right now to make sure that this is as amended as possible. But they had the walkthrough today, and the players actually deemed it okay for walkthrough, but I'm not sure if they've given it approval for practice yet. And that's what tonight is all about. We're going to be headed to the Super Bowl opening night media day at Allegiant Stadium, and we'll see what the 49ers players say. Again, they're probably not going to be flying back to Santa Clara. I mean, there would be a lot of logistical issues from the NFL's perspective there. And I think cooler heads probably will prevail in that regard, even though a lot of people were talking about that on social media this morning. Like, why don't the 49ers just take the 45-minute flight back to Santa Clara and practice there and then come back on Friday? I just don't see that happening. And I think that something else will be resolved here. But exactly what it is will depend on what the 49ers players and their staff thinks about the current state of the field. And they tested it out at noon today, but nobody has spoken publicly about what they thought of the field. Practice is scheduled to start tomorrow. Today was the walkthrough for the 49ers. So a couple days of practice on the field at UNLV is scheduled, and we'll see what the 49ers think about it and what they plan to do moving forward. So that's a developing story. Just wanted to keep you updated. Tune in for more. I'm going to head down to Media Day right now. I think the key is right below me, and you could check out the article on The Athletic. I retweeted it. Matt wrote it, all of the 49ers options and what's happened today. So much of it remains unclear, but I think that this much is clear. No matter what happens, the 49ers need to make sure they use this purely as motivation, not as an excuse, not as something that gets them angry and distracts their level of play. They need to channel this in a fashion that is motivation for them moving forward on Sunday. And they, however that works. Richard Sherman used to create slights in his head to get the best football out of himself. So maybe some 49ers will use this as disrespect. Maybe some 49ers will say, yeah, this is unfair. But as long as they're motivated by this, I think that they can channel this in a positive way. And sometimes stuff isn't totally even. Stuff isn't totally fair. That typically is the case if you have to practice in a different spot, right? And there are much better facilities for the Chiefs than for the 49ers. The Chiefs are in an NFL facility. The 49ers are in a college facility. Field too soft for their liking, but we'll see how they react to this moving forward. I think we could just zoom out and say that motivation is the key thing that they do need to draw from this. All right, there's your 49ers update here from Vegas. I'm off to media night. We'll talk to you very soon.